I gave people all the stuff they really needed. Social security checks, utility bills, TV guide.
I want a TV guidance counselor. TV guidance counselor. Staying up to watch all night, and everything's gonna be alright with my TV guidance counselor.
Hello and welcome to TV Guidance Counselor. I am Ken Reed, as always, your TV Guidance Counselor, and this is the show where each and every week since February 14th, 2014, I have welcomed an interesting person of the show to discuss classic television, whatever the hell else we feel like discussing, usually using a back issue of TV Guide magazine from my personal collection as the inspiration for our conversation. This week is no exception. We do, in fact, use a TV Guide. My guest this week is friend and longtime listener and cartoonist Douglas Arthur. I, for some strange reason, believed that he had been on the show before, which he had not. So you will hear my little snafu at the beginning there. I have been on his podcast twice, though. So I think that's what we landed on as to what. Also, I'm completely overwhelmed and overworked and confused by the world at the moment. And we're in June, everybody, my birthday month. But Doug is awesome. He has a new comic out called The Bridge That Eats Trucks, which I hold in my hand right now. It's very funny, very cool. It is on his own Dougside Syndicate Press. The cover that I'm looking at, which is great, it has a very 90s Vertigo Comics vibe. The comic itself doesn't necessarily, but the cover is very 90s Vertigo. Reminds me of like the Vertigo winter special, but which is a good thing. I mean that in a good way. But you should buy Doug's The Bridge to the Trucks or any of his other stuff for listening to his podcast. And we do all the plugs here. They'll be at the end. Or if you do not have a pen and paper, you can email me at ken@ikenread.com or tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com, at TV Guidance, @KenWRead on the social media. Or if you have $1 a month or even $5 a month, you can go over to the Patreon, patreon.com/TV Guidance Counselor, and you will get a PDF of this week's TV Guide, and you can follow along, play along with Douglas Arthur and myself. You could pause right now, do the $5, and then you'll have the PDF. You don't have to. It's just a recommendation. Anyway, please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of TV Guidance Counselor with my guest, Douglas Arthur.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
Live via satellite from upstate New York. Doug, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, doing all right. Since the last time we were on, you've had a new book out, and we met at the Funny Bone.
Yeah, that was actually kind of fun. I saw that Todd Barry was coming, and I reached out and I said, "Are you opening for him? Because I know you open for him sometimes." And I missed you the last time you came to Albany, and so I'm like, I'm not missing him this time.
Did you been to that venue before?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, many times. I saw Titus there several years ago. It's surprising how successful that venue is in the mall.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's funny because every time we see a comedian there, they always comment on doing a show in the mall, and it's like, and then they wonder why nobody's laughing. It's like, because we've heard that joke. Like,
yes, because this is the only place to go. We've all seen it in the mall. Yeah,
right,
it is a little strange. So their Funny Bone it's a chain, and some of them are in malls. So the upstate New York ones are Syracuse and Albany. Syracuse one is extra strange because that's in Destiny USA.
Oh, Destiny USA, yeah.
Which is a real bizarre mall where they were clearly trying to build like a rival to Mall of America. And
that's exactly what they were trying to do, yeah.
Because I imagine it was all like oil, not refineries, but it was like oil distribution places in that area prior to that, I think, or something.
Yeah, it was very industrial, yeah. It was originally the Carousel Mall, which was owned by Pyramid Corp, who owns like probably 90% of the malls in America. And at some point, I think it might have been in the 90s, early 2000s, they wanted to expand and rival the Mall of America in Minneapolis or in Minnesota there. And it just yeah, they couldn't get all of the permits and permissions to do what they wanted to do, so it's kind of like halfway.
Yeah.
Halfway there. And then I think even more recently they did some upgrades and they did some more expansion, but it's not, still not anything close to Mall of America.
But it's more than your average mall. It's like 4 floors. There's like a zoo in there. There's a racetrack.
Yeah.
It's like real weird.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, even the mall here, Crossgates, where Funny Bone is, it's kind of transformed itself. There's a lot less retail, and there's more, like Funny Bone. There's a place. There was a place. There was a bowling alley, with like arcade games. There's a Dave and Buster's. It's more like entertainment focused.
Right. Experiential stuff. Because otherwise, it's sort of the same thing we talk about on the show with the TV Guide stuff. It's like, how do you get people when the novelty of access is gone, right? So like
Right.
people can shop at home, people can stream whatever they want. How do you get them to do what they used to do? What appeals to them? And it's like for malls, a lot of them have become these sort of destination, experiential things. So there's like escape rooms and laser tag and whatever.
I do want to correct you on one thing. I have never been on your show. You've been on my show a couple of times.
That's right. For some reason, I thought you were coming back. Yeah, this is the first. No. Welcome for the first time.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I'm
like, yeah, we've done this a bunch, right? Because I've been on your show twice, I think, right? Or at least
twice. You've been on my show twice, yeah.
That's what I think it was. I was like, oh my god.
We talked TV horror movies the first time, and this last time we talked
black
comics.
and white comic boom, yeah. 'Cause you're a cartoonist, and yep. Well, welcome for the first time. I apologize. I was so sure you had been on before.
That's okay. You, given the number of guests you've had, I don't blame you for making that mistake.
My brain is not what it used to be.
Trust me. I spent 3 hours today getting tested for, doing some cognitive tests for my therapist, and that was just torture.
Yeah.
Torturous.
Oh yeah, it's fun getting older, isn't it?
Not really.
No, and we never thought we'd get there.
I'm not enjoying it at all.
No. There's like a window in the middle where I'm like, I can live like a 12-year-old that won a lawsuit, but then it starts to go down from there.
Right.
But you picked an issue from 1974, so it's local program September 21st to 27th, 1974.
Yes.
Weirdly, for whatever reason, the last out of maybe 6 out of the last 10 episodes have been like football covers.
Yeah. Well, I didn't choose it for the cover. I was looking. There's a specific reason and a specific show, which we'll get to. I'm going to tease this out a little bit for the folks. But it's and on top of that, it's not until Friday night, which is the last night in the book. So we're gonna tease our way into why I picked this issue
for that. This particular issue, I have to apologize for the scan. This clearly has some what I would call rodent damage on the cover.
Oh, is that what that is? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. This looks like something has eaten it. This does not look like your normal wear and tear.
That's true. Yeah, it's because it is like on every corner.
Yeah.
It's kind of ripped and torn on every corner.
Yeah, which gives it some character.
It does. It feels real. It feels real. I noticed that this is also from Pennsylvania.
Yes,
as well. So some of the channels, and so I had to try to guess. I think I wound up picking a lot of shows that are on PBS.
Right.
quite honestly. But yeah, 1974. I was 7, and 7 is also a significant number because that's the number of children in my family.
Oh, wow.
I am one of 7 kids. So as you can imagine, my time at the television was limited and also controlled by my older siblings.
Of course. Where in the
So-
birth order are you?
I am number 5.
Okay.
So I'm towards I'm just off center, as I like to joke a little bit. My brother Rick is like dead center. He's got 3 older, 3 younger, and I'm just off center. I've got 4 older, 2 younger. So
So you had
and
no chance of picking what you watched.
very little. So I kind of absorbed what my older siblings were watching. And even when I was the oldest in the room, my 2 younger sisters would outvote me a lot of the time. So I as a result, and this is kind of my origin story, which is another reason I picked this issue. As a result of that, I think I spent more time reading and more time drawing, because I really enjoyed to draw at this age, and just doing other creative things. My brother and I used to make our own toys. Out of we used to race marbles, and we'd take those metal shelf. I don't even know what to call them.
They're
exactly.
not brackets. Yeah, they're almost like pegboard, but they're metal.
Right, but the brackets actually fit into them, and they were like these long things, and they were kind of hollowed out, so they had 3 sides to them, and if you flipped them over, they made like a perfect marble track. Yep. And we would, and of course it annoyed the hell out of my mom because they made this noise when the marbles rolled on them and they were metal. And so, she was like, "What are you boys doing up there?" Kind of a thing. But yeah, so as I was going through this TV guide, it was really kind of interesting to me. I'm like, even looking at it now, I'm like, there's really not a lot here I want to watch.
You made your choice and you stick with it.
I mean, there are things that I have memories of watching, of course, but and we'll talk about that as we go. But it just kind of struck me as like this issue features a show that is very formative for me, and at the age I was at, it's just interesting to just kind of see there's a reason for this. Number one, my age, and number 2, prime time in 1974 is pretty much a wasteland. Yeah. It's not good. It really isn't.
Yeah, it's a weird in between. It doesn't quite feel like the 70s as we know them yet on television. Right. And the sort of, I don't want to say quality 60s shows, but the shows we think of as 60s shows, your Green Acres, your Bewitched, right, and all that, they're kind of just over. So it's like this, they haven't quite figured out where they're going yet with the next sort of, the Norman Lear stuff hasn't really amped up to where it would get. Yeah. So it is sort of a weird transitional year. And so you grew up in upstate New York, right?
Yeah, we moved around a lot. Obviously my dad was always chasing a bigger paycheck. At this particular time in 1974, we were living outside of Ithaca, New York, in a small little town called Slaterville Springs.
What a cool name, Slaterville Springs.
Slaterville Springs, yeah. And I went to Caroline Elementary School, which, I don't know why I mentioned that, but I'll talk about it later because sure. it comes up. It'll come up later in one of my stories. But we were living there at that time. We had actually just moved there from Minnesota. I have this weird history. Like, my dad actually took a job in Minnesota. I was born in Maryland in the tail end of the 60s. And my dad took a job in Minnesota before I was born. So my mom had to wait until I was old enough to travel to move me to Minnesota. So I lived in Maryland for like 3 weeks. And
long enough.
So I have some memories of Minnesota, and one of my very earliest memories and one of my very earliest TV memories is actually the moon landing, and I was just shy of 2 years old when that happened, and it was so. It was just so, it made such an impression on me that I remember it. It's one of my earliest memories, although it seems like it's fading more and more as the older I get.
Well, you can always refurbish it by watching it again. Or it's funny.
Right.
This TV behind me here, this Motorola, is from 1967, and
The year I was born.
Rachel and I were driving down the street one day, and this guy was hauling it out to the trash. And I was like, "Are you throwing that out?" And he's like, "Yeah, why? You want it?" And I said, "Yeah." And I put it in the car, and as I put it in, he goes, "We watched the moon landing on that."
Wow.
I was like, "Yeah, cool."
That's pretty wild. But yeah, we lived there, and then we moved to Corning, New York for a couple of years, and before we finally settled here in the Albany area, in the late 70s, like 1978, I think was when we came here. And then, I went off to school in Buffalo, and I lived out there for 14 years. So I have a strong affinity for Western New York, and that's where I started my cartooning career. Was in Buffalo. I started a comic strip called Tales from the Dougside, and I'll let you guess where the inspiration for that title came from.
It's a tough one.
Yeah. So I started that as I was a student at the University of Buffalo, and it was just one of those weird things. My roommate was the production manager for the student magazine, and he's like, "Hey, we're looking for a new cartoonist," and I had drawn comics, starting from like fourth grade on, but I wasn't really that serious about it. I enjoyed it. It was just one of those hobbies I had, and that's kind of where I started. I started getting, that was my first published, cartoons. And I initially kind of started off as a political cartoonist, doing political cartoons.
It's the mid 80s. It's college.
Yeah. So, I was making fun of Reagan and, Mario Cuomo and,
Iran Contra, you got
right. Yeah. That kind of stuff. Exactly. But after I graduated, I had that opportunity to move the comic strip into one of those weekly entertainment papers that was out there. It was called Nightlife, Buffalo Nightlife. And of course, aside from my strip, it listed like where all the bands were playing and what movies were playing, and then like the last half of it was all like ads for strip clubs and
it was like the Boston Phoenix and the Village Voice, the local they would call them an alternative weekly.
Right. Yes. Oh, this was an alternative weekly. I think it was. I don't know. It was pretty crazy. I enjoyed my time there. I drew the comic strip until like 1998, and that was. I went on hiatus for a little while, and I started publishing again in 2013, and I've been at it. I've been at it since, and I just published my 17th book, which is fun. It's called The Bridge That Eats Trucks.
Yes,
and it's I sent you a copy.
Yes,
I don't know
I got it right here. Yep.
Okay, there's where I live is a little town called Glenville, which is outside of Schenectady, New York, which is where one of the first TV stations was, WRGB, from because General Electric is headquartered here.
Yep.
And anyway, just about a mile or so from my house is a bridge that is it's one of those low hanging railroad bridges. It's only 10 feet, 11 inches off the ground, and trucks crash into it all the time. And the state has poured literally millions and millions of dollars into signs and flashing lights.
Not for commercial. Yeah, it's like Storrow Drive here in Boston. Same thing. People call it getting Storrow.
Yes. Well, yeah, during doing research for this, I discovered there's lots of bridges like this all around the country that have a reputation. But I happen to think that our bridge here in Glenville is the first one to have its own comic book.
Yes.
So I got a group of other local cartoonists here to write some stories, and one not local person. We got Rick Parker, kind of the Marvel Comics legend, to contribute a story. My brother and I met him at a show in Western Mass in Greenfield, Massachusetts, which is up there near the Vermont border, I think.
Yep, it's kind of above Springfield, Vermont border.
Yes.
Lou Barlow of Sevedo is from Greenfield and lives there. I recorded an episode with him there.
Really? I didn't realize he was from Greenfield.
Yep.
That's wild.
As is Penn Jillette.
Also didn't know that.
Yep.
That's pretty wild too. If I ever run into him, I'll have something to talk about.
Yes, yeah.
But we bumped into him there a couple years ago. He was also a guest at the show, and somehow he took a liking to my brother and I. He liked our dynamic, and when we were starting to do the Kickstarter for the book last fall, he reached out and he's like, "How come you didn't ask me to do a story?" And I'm like, "Would you have done one if we asked?" And it was kind of fun. He was like, initially he was just going to do a single page story. And then it was like, well, hey, do you have room if I do 3 pages? And I'm like, sure, do whatever you want. It eventually ballooned into a 5-page story from him. And for those of your listeners who don't know Rick Parker, he was a longtime letterer for Marvel, but his other claim to fame, and he lettered literally thousands of pages of books from the late 70s until probably the year 2000.
Yep.
So you can open up pretty much any Marvel comic from that era and you probably find his lettering. But he also was the artist for the Beavis and Butthead comic.
Yep.
In the 90s. So that's kind of his other claim to fame. And he's done some other really cool stuff. And it's been kind of a surreal, but also really cool to get to know him in the last couple of years and have him contribute to the book and, be part of the success of it so far. We're really having a lot of fun with it. It's kind of blown up here locally. I made the front page of the Schenectady Gazette.
Nice.
which
Hopefully framed.
Which is pretty, not yet, but it's back there in that pile waiting,
Gotcha.
waiting for a frame, but it will be framed. But yeah, I never expected to be, front page news.
There are worse ways to be front page news.
Yeah, exactly. And we were above the fold too. Nice. So that was even, with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, to be above the fold. On the front page
and not having murdered anyone.
Yeah, it's for a comic book about a bridge.
It's what we need now.
But it's fun. The focus is mostly humorous. There's some horror elements because I think horror and humor kind of go hand in hand. But it's mostly humorous, I think. I know my story is definitely mostly humor. And some of the other stories are, kind of have that bent to it. But that's just, a lot of fun. That's kind of a brief history of me and my career.
Yeah, no, it sets the tone perfectly here. So we can kind of figure out where in your development this is happening. And I imagine you only have one TV in the house.
Yes, and it was black and white.
Oh, that was my next question. You got one black and white TV. Do you remember when you guys got a color TV?
I was in college.
Wow.
So I didn't get to experience color television. I mean, I remember asking to go to my friend's house to watch Battlestar Galactica in color, right. Because, everything was, and I even remember the first time I watched The Wizard of Oz in the movie theater, it was like, wait, what happened? It switches from black and white to color. Yeah. But I thought the whole thing was in black and white. Until we saw, we used to go to the movies sometimes on Saturday. They'd have a Saturday matinee. I saw, Sound of Music, and I saw. I think the first movie I ever saw in the theater was that Disney version of Tom Sawyer with Jodie Foster as Becky Thatcher.
Oh yeah, yep.
I remember going to see that. I think that was the first movie I saw. Anyway. That was kind of the beginning of my love of movies too. So yeah, it all kind of melds together.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like I said, since we're in September, that's where we're getting the Pro Football Forecast 74.
Right.
There's also an ad for a cigarette brand I never heard of before called L&M, which doesn't sound appetizing, and it's just like two miserable guys camping who look absolutely miserable. And it says a time to enjoy, wide open flavor, which almost seems sarcastic given how miserable these two dudes look in this picture. They look like they're on the run from a chain gang.
They do look fairly miserable. I was going to say it almost looks like a Brokeback Mountain situation, but
They're not in love.
They do. There's no love there.
No.
There's absolutely no love there.
This might be the divorce years of the Brokeback Mountain, if that's
right.
Yeah.
They look like they've lost custody of their children.
Yeah, it's not happening anymore.
It's bad.
And then there's an interesting thing here about hidden cameras and sort of like gotcha journalism, which was like pretty new at this time.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. There's and it's. It was just starting. That technology was just starting to. Security cameras were not really a big thing back then. It's kind of when I go back and I think about where we are now, where there's literally cameras on every stoplight, every corner,
and in everyone's pocket.
It's really insane, like how much of a surveillance state we've really become, and we're like active partners in it.
Yeah,
active partners. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and like cameras have gotten small enough they could do these sort of like hidden camera stuff, which is funny how that's such a staple of news and media from most people their entire life. So to have it be sort of a new thing here, there's a great documentary called Hell's Highway, and it's about the company that invented the sort of classroom scare film for driver's ed. So
I've seen a few of those.
Red Asphalt is a famous one.
Yes.
They'd take actual footage from accident scenes and then like do fictionalized skits about what could have happened before or whatever. Pretty horrifying. But this documentary is amazing because there's, aside from that, which is interesting enough, this company set up hidden cameras in like a local public men's restroom, and had all these local politician guys like gay cruising in this, and they blackmailed them for years. And so they like would use the production company as kind of like a cover and to like launder money they were getting from blackmailing these politicians with this hidden camera. And this was in like the mid to late 60s. And it's just fascinating. It's this crazy story. I highly recommend that movie if people.
Well, some things never change, obviously.
No. Those conservative, often Republican politicians who were cruising in the bathrooms. Then there's an amazing full-page ad for the Real Skin multi-style capless wig. This ad is fascinating and absolutely terrifying.
I'm sorry, I got stuck on the article about bring back Jim Nabors.
Oh yeah. Oddly, I glossed right over that one.
Even as a kid, I was not much of a fan of Jim Nabors. I was, I mean, obviously, I watched Andy Griffith and if I had to, if I was forced to, I'd watch, Gomer Pyle. Yeah, exactly. I was just like, what is up? This guy is so annoying. Why is he the star of a show?
Yeah. And had a big singing career.
That was, I discovered that later. It's like, you'd see the ads where, Jim Nabors' greatest hits or whatever, and it's just like, he doesn't sound he's got this deep baritone.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you wouldn't guess it because he's got this high pitched, annoying voice on, when he does his character. It's just real bad. Yeah. This capless wig is
it's something.
It's spooky.
This lady looks harsh. So it's like an almost airbrushed depiction of, I think this is all supposed to be the same woman, wearing this wig in like 5 different styles, where it's like
Right.
you can have a totally feminine look with soft bangs combed forward or to the side or brushed off. Only $10.98.
Well,
yeah.
the weird thing is like every single depiction of the way they've styled this hair almost looks like a beehive.
Yeah.
Like it's just this puffed out in the back. You know, if she had blue skin, she'd look like the alien from The Fifth Element.
Yeah,
you know,
easily. It doesn't look like a contemporary 1974 style, let's say. It's at least
No.
10 years behind.
I would agree. I would agree with that.
Which is probably why
I remember the funny thing is, and no offense to my mom because it was the style of the time, but I remember my mom wearing hair similar to some of these styles back in the day when I was little. You know, but that's a trip down memory lane you don't necessarily want to go on.
And then before we get to the listings, I also found a really interesting thing here on the Doan report on page 11.
Oh, yeah.
There's a thing about a mail-in crusade again of people trying to ensure that the networks did not show X-rated and R-rated films on broadcast TV, which was in discussion at the time because the rating system was relatively new.
Yes.
And so
it started in 1968.
Yeah, so it's 6 years old by 1974. And so it had never really come up before, right? So they're like, yeah, we're going to show these movies on TV. We always show a couple years old movies on TV. And they had this whole campaign against it.
Yeah. Like in the early days of the rating system, Midnight Cowboy won Best Picture. That was an X-rated movie.
Yep.
Based on the rating system. Obviously the rating system has taken on different connotations since then, but it also led to the rise at that era of the porn industry as well.
Yes.
And that's probably a whole discussion for another show.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were definitely some of those discussions about, the culture is changing, television should change. And there was, I think, some loosening of what was allowable on television at that time in the 70s. Look at the plethora of cop shows and those kinds of things.
Jiggle TV.
And that came a little later, but yeah, for sure. So, I can see where it was a discussion, but I don't think there was any real danger of them showing X-rated films. Certainly not in prime time. If they showed them, I'm sure they would have showed them like after midnight.
Which some UHF stations absolutely did. But this was interesting because the cards that were mailed in were provided by a group out of Tulsa called the Crusade Against Pornography, or CAP. So this seems like a weird culture wars kind of thing. And then they're like, oh, the networks also said when they do show these movies, they cut out objectionable things, so it's fine. It's just a really weird article because it kind of doesn't actually say anything.
I noticed that article too. I worked in the movie theater business for 14 years as one of my many jobs over the years. So movie ratings and so on. And film history has always been kind of a thing for me. So when I saw that article, I'm like, oh, that might be interesting to bring up.
Because we had, so in 1978 or 79, TV 38 here in Boston had a movie show called the Movie Loft, which I've talked about on the show a bunch, but
sure,
their big thing when they first went on the air was they were showing uncut movies. They showed The Deer Hunter uncut. They showed, The Exorcist uncut on broadcast UHF TV. So there was this sort of push towards those sorts of things. And then, HBO, I think, was founded technically in 1972 or something, but, no one had it till at least the early 80s. But very, very strange. Before we get to Saturday night, I did notice that the new Saturday morning cartoon lineup is being rolled out on ABC that Saturday. And it's Hong Kong Phooey, The New Adventures of Gilligan, not to be confused with Gilligan's Planet. This was a Filmation, I believe, like continuation of the show.
Yeah, I believe it was Filmation. In fact, if I zoom in on the copyright notice, it's blurry, but it does look like it says Filmation.
Yeah, that was their MO. Yeah. They did the Star Trek series around this time. They were kind of buying the rights to series from the 1960s and essentially doing an additional seasons and would often get the actual voice cast from the show. Devlin, which is a ridiculous Hanna-Barbera show that's basically a ripoff of Evel Knievel, but it's almost like Ghost Rider without the supernatural element.
Yeah, I remember hating that show.
It's boring.
I loved Hong Kong Phooey.
Yeah.
I was really into Hong Kong Phooey, and I'm not afraid to admit it at this point. And right around this time too, I remember calling in to the radio to request Kung Fu Fighting by Carl Douglas.
Yes, of course.
So that was another, this was 1974 was right in that post Bruce Lee Kung Fu boom that was going on in the popular culture at the time. It didn't last very long.
Well, it didn't like between sort of Enter the Dragon and the Karate Kid. Every single small town had at least one storefront karate studio in their town, you know?
That's true. That's true.
So it had kind of been absorbed into America. Then there's a show I've never heard of before, but I looked it up. It's called Korg, 70,000 BC. This was a very short-lived show.
Yeah, I do remember it. I do remember that show.
Live action. It's about cavemen who don't speak, so Burgess Meredith narrates the show. So it's almost like
it's kind of documentary style.
Yeah, like Wild America or Mutual of Omaha, but cavemen.
Pretty much it. I mean, I don't have strong memories of it. I remember watching it, and it was definitely one of those shows. Like, I tended to shy away from the live action shows on Saturday mornings. And it's a shame. I feel like maybe this issue is missing a page because it doesn't have the full Saturday morning lineup.
Yeah, I think I missed a page when I was scanning.
But that's okay, because I could have gone through and told you all of the cartoons I know I watched that at that time. But yeah, I usually knew cartoons were over when Soul Train came on.
Here it was Kindlepin Bowling.
Oh, okay, all right. But yeah, in upstate New York, it was Soul Train, which came on around 12:30 on our channel. So yeah,
I am kind of fascinated here because this is a Pittsburgh edition. But oddly, like at 12:30 and at 1 o'clock here, there are shows produced in Boston. So Zoom is on at 12:30, produced in Boston. Zoom. And then Jabberwocky is on, which was produced WCBB Channel 5 here, our ABC affiliate. And it was the first show with Jo Beth Williams. It was her first gig. So pre-Poltergeist, Jo Beth Williams was kind of the host of this weird kids show with a puppet.
Yeah, I just based on the listings here and what I picked later, I think Channel 3 in this edition that we're looking at is the PBS station.
Yes.
Because it's got the Electric Company and Hodgepodge Lodge is another one of those kids shows. Zoom, I had fond memories of Zoom. I loved Zoom. That was definitely one of the few shows I got to watch that like my younger sisters liked it too, so we could all watch
you all
it together.
Agreed on
we all agreed on it, and then we'd all talk about making the inventions that they had on the shows. So
what do you got going on Saturday night?
Saturday night. Well, before we get to Saturday night, at this age especially, and this is part of my origin story. I would watch on Saturday afternoons. There was always, horror movie double feature, in this particular issue at 2:00 is Attack of the Crab Monsters. So this is the kind of stuff I was kind of weaned on because this is what my dad grew up on. My dad graduated from high school in 1953. So he, this is the kind of stuff he grew up on, was this kind of, these kind of movies. And he would always, it's like, oh, you should, this one's a fun one, and he'd put it on, and, he'd always say stuff like, they don't make them like they used to.
I mean,
and thank God for that.
Attack of the Crab Monsters, for people who've never seen it, it's Roger Corman, 1957, but
Yes.
it's pretty weird because it's these sentient crabs that eat people and then can talk, like sort of absorb the person's, can mimic them.
Oh, wow.
It's really weird. It's like, because you read the title and you think it's just like, oh yeah, okay, crab, but it's got this bizarre extra twist of this thing. It's so strange. But yeah, one of the more fun 50s Roger Corman movies.
Yeah, so I grew up on stuff like that, and I specifically remember one Saturday, it was Billy the Kid versus Dracula, and Jesse James meets the daughter of Frankenstein. It was a double feature, and it's like, it totally fed into what I became interested in later in life. And it was, it wouldn't have happened without being exposed to it. My older siblings, my older brother especially, was really into science fiction and and horror movies. Stuff like the Omega Man and
Also 1974.
Yes, exactly, that kind of stuff. And I remember watching Blackula and Count Yorga and all these other movies that I probably shouldn't have been watching at that age.
And I think I forget if we talked about this before, but the vampire episode of Starsky and Hutch with John Saxon.
Yeah, oh God, yes.
As the vampire. The weirdest thing about that episode, aside from the fact that he appears to play an actual vampire,
right,
is that it was written and directed by a guy whose only other two writing and directing jobs were two movies. The guy who made both Count Yorga movies.
Oh, wow.
So,
you know what? I do remember you mentioning that.
It's very consistent with, I made two vampire movies and then a vampire episode of Starsky and Hutch.
We want to do vampires. Let's get the guy from Count Yorga.
Yeah, the Count Yorga guy's great.
Yeah, let's get him.
And then the Eye Creatures is on from 1968, which is also a very weird, 12 years later movie.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. I'm seeing that. That's at 4:30. Yes.
So that's a good afternoon.
I don't know if I saw the Eye Creatures or not, but that might be one to revisit.
It's a fun watch.
I have an affinity for low budget, so bad it's good kind of movies. I still watch some of them, but it did kind of give me that a sense of anything is possible. You don't need a lot of money.
Ingenuity.
you just need some ingenuity to make something. And I think that was something that came to me early. The only other thing before we get into prime time, and this is almost prime time, it's at 6:30. There is a syndicated cartoon called Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, which was a favorite in my house because, my dad would go off to work every day, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom with 7 kids. You kind of have to be. And so, that was kind of the thing. It's like, if we got into any kind of, trouble that she didn't handle or couldn't handle, it was always wait till your father gets home.
Very common phrase for a generation.
Yes.
Yeah, this was a Hanna-Barbera show. It was kind of sort of all in the family. Tom Bosley, I believe, voiced the dad.
Yes, I think you're right.
And it was People forget that Hanna-Barbera, like the Jeffersons, the Jetsons, and the Flintstones were primetime shows, as was Top Cat. And
Johnny Quest.
Johnny Quest. So, like, that was sort of 50s, 60s, and then there was sort of a big break between when they were able to pull that off. And so this was their attempt to sort of get back into the primetime animated show realm, and it really didn't hit. It was a one season and done. Not a bad show, but there was no... Unlike all their other shows, which were I would call high concept, this was literally just like a family. Like this could have been a live action sitcom, but it just happened to be animated.
Yeah. I don't remember anything specific about it other than I remember we watched it, as a family and enjoying it. But, I couldn't tell you anything else about it.
It got a DVD release, weirdly, so it's pretty
Really?
obscure. And yeah, Hanna-Barbera put it out on DVD maybe 15, 20 years ago.
I might have to hunt that down.
It's shockingly easy to find for an obscure show.
Just for nostalgia's sake. And all right, so then I guess we're going to move into prime time, and obviously there's a huge ad there at the bottom with Kung Fu.
Yes.
Again, Kung Fu sweeping the nation. Definitely would have been watching that. The weekends were kind of a special thing. I could stay. Usually my bedtime was around 8:00, 8:30. If we were pushing it, but on the weekends, sometimes we could stay up a little later.
Of course.
As long as we were able to get up for church the next day, which was another reason to hate church as a kid. It's like it's keeping me from staying up late on Saturday night.
Especially a year later, because we're a year before Saturday Night Live even.
Right, exactly. I remember that was a thing, sneaking down to the TV room to watch Saturday Night Live when I was a little bit older, a few years beyond this, obviously, and watching it with my older siblings who were, in high school at that point. My oldest brother is 9 years older than me. So, when he was a senior in high school, I was in third grade. So there's definitely
getting exposed to some non-third grade stuff there.
Yeah, just a little. But yeah, Kung Fu. He liked Kung Fu, so I liked Kung Fu. That was kind of that thing. What do I have?
There's also a full page ad for this very 70s dog tags that you could get with like subversive statements on them. And it's the most 70s thing. And I'm actually a little bit scandalized by how sexual some of these are in here. Like there's one that says, "I'm a sex maniac. In case of emergency, give me a kiss. Love me, squeeze me, take me home." And like,
oh my gosh,
this is like almost National Lampoon level. Not quite that filthy, but like more than I'm used to in the TV guide. This is a little bit more risque than they normally get. They're
Help! I need lovin'. And that's the apostrophe VN. Yeah.
As in the spoonful.
Oh, look at that! They've ripped off Robert Crumb with their truckin'.
Which I had to zoom in on because from far away that looks much filthier than it is. It's like a giant oversized thumb, really badly drawn.
You're right. Yes. But yeah, that's
that was an unusual ad for TV Guide.
That's fun. But yeah, so definitely would have been watching Kung Fu, but I also noticed that Mary Tyler Moore is also on at the same time. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we did back then was, we'd have to take turns. So like if my older brother picked Kung Fu one week, we'd have to watch Mary Tyler Moore the next week because that's what my sisters wanted to watch. So I have to give my mom some credit for forcing us to do, sharing, to learn. Because we had to, because you weren't going to come to a complete consensus. No. So, the thing was, if my vote didn't win, I was like, okay, I'm not watching TV tonight because I don't want to watch this show. Yeah. So I'm going to go do something else. I'll go read. I'll go draw. I'll go do something else. So that's that's part of my, origin story too. It's like, I found other things to do with my time. Let's see what else is on here. And then at 9:30 we've got Kung Fu.
Is a whole hour.
The guest cast for that episode includes William Shatner.
Yes, as Captain Gage.
And so this is his kind of guest star era, where he's like, William Shatner, just looking through this TV guide, shows up in so many different places: talk shows, game shows, as guest stars on movie on TV shows. It's pretty incredible, the visibility he had.
It was his second career, really, because Star Trek had been off the air, but the syndication, that sort of second audience had sort of come about, and he started in that time between Star Trek and TJ Hooker. His star started to rise again. James Hong is also in that episode.
Yeah. Yes, correct.
9:30 is hilarious to me because there's literally only two things on. There's the Bob Newhart show, which I would probably watch.
Which I would definitely would have watched.
And then on PBS, there's a special called Male Menopause. The anxieties of the middle-aged man come under analysis in this hour, combining plain talk with humorous and dramatic sketches about male menopause. Host William Wyndham is joined by Ann Mira and folk singer Oscar Brand. Segments include William as a huckster pushing a male potency elixir, and Ann as a housewife griping about her husband's odd behavior. Weird sort of comedy thing on PBS, like very strange.
That does seem kind of weird. And Ann Mira is without her husband Jerry Stiller.
Yeah, she's paired up with whoever this William Wyndham is.
Yeah, that is very strange. And 10 o'clock, Carol Burnett. That was a favorite of mine growing up. In fact, somewhere my dad, after he passed, we were going through, he had separated all, he'd saved, so he was a pack rat. He saved all this stuff. And somewhere there is, my younger sister had written as a school, assignment. She had to write about somebody she knew. And so she picked me, her older brother. And one of the things she wrote was that my favorite comedian was Carol Burnett. And this was right around this era, maybe that might have happened a couple years after this, but it was right around this era. So I know I was definitely watching Carol Burnett. I don't remember it being on at 10 o'clock at night because I wasn't normally up that late. I think it
went into syndication later too. They would do like half-hour edits of the 60-minute show for years, so that might be part of where you're thinking. Also, there's an ad in here for a cat food called Cadillac, not Cats-Illac, which I would think it would be. Like Cadillac spelled exactly like the car, and then the can has a Cadillac symbol on the can. And it says 100% chicken and liver for cats. How?
It makes you wonder if that was an offshoot of the actual Cadillac brand.
I imagine it would have to be if they're this blatant about it, but they're like, your cat will eat Cadillac every time. And why not call it Catillac? It's for cats.
Yeah.
It's right there.
And it's 100% chicken and liver.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we all want. It's Sunday night. What do you got going on?
Sunday night. Okay, let's scroll down here to Sunday night. Well, just before prime time, there's a show called Travelin', which is at 4 o'clock, and it's Roger Miller hosts this musical hour with Milton Berle, Bobby Goldsboro, Della Reese, Doc Severinsen, and Today's Children. Highlights include King of the Road, Dang Me, Open Up Your Heart, Brand New King of Love, A Song for Children, and What Are You Doing with the rest of your life.
And is today's children a...
It's a group. It's kind of like musical youth.
Okay, I was like, are they a band, or are they just talking about like, and a bunch of kids that we're just going to call children of today?
I think it was a group. But anyway, that's not something I probably would have watched as a kid, but I'm kind of interested in it as an adult to see that. And also of note, something I definitely probably would have watched at 5 o'clock, Famous Classic Tales, featuring an animated version of Robert Louis Stevenson's The Black Arrow, which I'm pretty sure I saw. I don't know if I saw it on this particular day, but I know I remember watching this. It was almost like, I don't know if you're familiar with Classics Illustrated.
Yeah, it was like an animated version of Classics Illustrated.
It's basically what it was. They would take classic stories like The Black Arrow, Robinson Crusoe,
Swiss Family
Count of Monte
Robinson,
Cristo. Yeah, and they would make, Three Musketeers. Then they would make cartoons out of them. All right, so Sunday, let's see, 7 o'clock, Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. Happy Days is on. I was a big Happy Days fan, and then I grew up. I think I stopped watching it after maybe like the 4th or 5th season.
Yeah.
I don't even think I made it to the Jumping the Shark episode. I loved it. I loved Fonzie, all of that. I bought into the hype.
It was hard not to.
But yeah, I was definitely watching that. But as an adult, I would probably be tuning in to the movie on Channel 33, which is The Gorgon.
Yes.
Which it's got Peter Cushing. It's a Hammer film. It's got Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee and Barbara Shelley. That would definitely be something that I would tune into now. But as a kid, I was probably watching $1 Million Duck, which was on the World of Disney.
Wonderful World of Disney, yeah.
The Wonderful World of Disney. That was my Sunday night pre-bedtime, staple, because school was the next day. So, after Disney was over, it was right to bed.
So weirdly, this was when later in the 80s, The Wonderful World of Disney would use that slot to do a lot of sort of failed pilots. But at this time in the 70s, they would show older live action Disney movies usually in 2 parts.
Yes.
So one week you'd get the first hour, one week you get the second hour, which is a real weird way to watch a movie. But this is the second half of the 1971 movie, The $1 Million Duck. Hopefully you remember what happened last week. My favorite thing about this evening is this is post Sonny and Cher breakup, which I believe happened the year before.
I'm glad you're bringing this up.
Full page ad for the Sonny comedy review starring Sonny Bono. Like, he's the real talent here. Like, no one wants to watch you, Sonny Bono. Like, Cher's not there. No one's watching this. This is the debut. And it says... But the ad says, the comedy show All America has been talking. Yeah, and what they're saying is, where's Cher?
Yeah, pretty much.
Because this one is... It literally says in the listing, Cher may be gone, but the format is the same. Music with a generous mix of comedy. Guests include Sally Struthers, Howard Cosell, and the Jackson 5, who joined Sonny Bono for the season's opener, which includes a takeoff of a James Bond thriller, Cosell's commentary on the fight between David and Goliath, and a cameo appearance by Miss Teenage America, Laurie Lee Matsukawa.
Oh, wow. That just sounds so thrilling.
Yeah, and also, why is Miss Teenage, like, come on. It's creepy.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
Yeah. It was a different time.
Yeah, it certainly was. Monday, what do you got going on?
Monday, let's see where... I'm scrolling through here for,
no problem. And you were saying before that you had combined old and new by scrolling through your iPad with the PDF and having highlighted on that.
Yeah, I used the highlight feature with my Apple Pencil. So it looks like I took a highlighter to the TV guide. So it's kind of reminds me of what I used to do. The only other thing of note is it's the television premiere of Thunderball on Sunday night.
Yes.
And weirdly enough, I just wanted to mention this too. Frogs is on the Ray Milland movie at 11:20.
Great Nature Gone Wild.
There's Johnny Carson reruns on a Sunday night. That's just so weird. Like he was so popular, and they used to have him on all the time. And then for weekday afternoons too, I just mentioned I watched all the game shows, so like Match Game, and
Name That Tune.
that kind of stuff. Name That Tune was all on, and I would sometimes watch the Mike Douglas Show, and of course this week it looks like Roger Moore is the guest host, or co-host.
It's all James Bond this week. It's in the Sonny Bono Show. Roger Moore's on.
Oh. And I found Jim Neighbors. Gomer Pyle USMC is at 4:30 on Channel 33. So I'm not sure why they want to bring him back. All right. Okay. 7:00 on Monday. $6 Million Man. I was all about the $6 Million Man. And this, I believe, was the year I got the Steve Austin action figure for Christmas. And I got sick on Christmas Day that year, and my younger sisters decided they wanted to play with my $6 Million Man doll while I was laying in bed recuperating from being sick, and stepped on him and broke his leg off at the knee.
And you didn't have $6 million to fix him.
And he was broken. I had to like tape his leg back together. So didn't even have him 6 hours and he was broken.
But in some ways, an authentic way to play with that particular.
Right. I think that was my dad was like, well, you can just pretend that you had to give him another bionic leg. That was my dad's way of kind of, dealing with those kinds of situations. He would try to make you use your imagination more. There was, I think maybe like the Christmas before, my dad had been furloughed or laid off right around Christmas time. We didn't have a lot of money. And so my parents made a lot of gifts that year for Christmas. And one of the gifts we got, my brother and I really wanted Rock'em Sock'em robots. So he made these, I don't know how he did it, but he got these like railroad ties that he welded arms and legs on to make them look like robots. And then he had worked for this company in Minnesota called Control Data, which was this very early computer company. And he had all of those old computer punch cards.
Oh, yeah.
And so he wrote different things on the punch cards, like, left hook, uppercut, whatever. And we would have to show the computer card, for, what our robot was doing to the other robot. So, we had to use our imaginations, but we were also imagining we were very disappointed that we didn't get real Rock'em Sock'em robots.
Yeah.
But and a coda to that story real quick. My daughter actually got me Rock'em Sock'em robots for Christmas about 5 years ago. So
You know what I got once at a party store? They were like for kids, like, birthday party goodie bags. They had Rock'em Sock'em robots on rings.
Oh, wow.
So they're like almost the exact same, like waist up on a ring, and you can actually like fight them. So it's almost like thumb wrestling, but with Rock'em Sock'em robots. They're really
that's
cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I have them around somewhere.
All right. So that's at 7:00.
And I will point out the $6 Million Man episode this night is basically the plot of The Incredible Melting Man. So an astronaut goes into space, and the capsule returns prematurely, and he transforms one of the travelers into a superhuman madman. Like, it's basically Incredible Melting Man.
Yeah. I remember seeing ads for that movie too. I don't think I've ever actually seen.
That's
the movie,
a great movie. You got to see that.
But I remember that. Yeah. Let's see. What else? What do we got going on here? That was at 7. And like I said, it's kind of a wasteland.
Yeah, Monday's tough. Monday's tough at 8:00 especially.
Yeah, Family Affair, tribute to George Gershwin, the Rookies.
Gunsmoke's still on.
Yeah, Gunsmoke. Yeah, I've had no patience for Gunsmoke. I didn't.
No, Born
I
Free.
didn't care. And then there's like a 6-page ad for Walt Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs book. I don't know why we need that. And then, I don't know. Boy, I have to scroll how many pages down to get to
and then it's Maude. Like the only really like thing on that I would watch that night that I'm like, oh, this is good is Maude. And Rhoda.
Yeah, I mean, like modern me might watch football, but it's the Cowboys, and I hate the Cowboys. So I would not, even modern me would not want to watch that game. Cowboys versus Eagles. With Frank Gifford. I mean, I might watch a quarter just for the kitsch of Howard Cosell and Frank Gifford, but and Fred the Hammer Williamson too.
Yes, pre-movie career
is on there. But I think what I probably might have watched back then, so I remember seeing this movie, Born Free. Actually, this is a
TV series based on the movie.
This is a series based on the movie. Yeah. I don't know. Wild animals were of particular interest to me for some reason. Giant cats. So yeah, if I was still up and had control of the TV, I probably would have watched Born Free. And yeah, modern me. I probably would have watched. Maude. Oh wow. Rue McClanahan is guest starring on that episode.
Yep.
So it's an early Golden Girls.
Oh yeah,
matchup.
They were all working with each other before that show.
And Conrad Bain.
Yeah, he was a regular on Maude.
That's pretty wild. And then really scraping the bottom here. But one show that kind of popped out at me, it's on a weird channel 24. It's a UHF channel. And it's called No Whistles, Bells, or Bedlam at 9:30. And the only reason it kind of grabbed my attention is that it involves humorist Gene Shepard.
Yep.
It's a serious subject. Problems of the deaf in finding jobs is probed with the light touch of humorist Gene Shepard in this film. Also, a discussion of myths about employing the deaf with representatives of the National Technical Institute for the Deaf.
And after that, there's a concert for the deaf and hard of hearing. So it's like a whole evening. But Gene Shepard, people would know from Christmas Story. But he was all over TV and radio for decades.
Oh, yeah. 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 And anybody that's seen A Christmas Story has heard him. He's the narrator. Mm-hmm. He has a great voice. I remember listening to him on the radio too. That was the other thing. Like if I wasn't watching television, I was listening to the radio. That was kind of the other thing. But yeah, not much going on there.
At 74, you still had like National Lampoon Radio Hour. You had stuff like Gene Shepard. And before we move on to Tuesday, I'll point out that in continuing with the rest of the week, Roger Moore is on Johnny Carson, although McLean Stevenson is guest hosting.
Yes. And also featuring Jose Feliciano.
Yes.
is on there as well.
That would either be a great episode or the worst episode ever. I haven't quite decided yet.
Now, forgive my aside here. That's half the show, really. But on the next page, there's an ad for basically the Virginia Travel Service. And it's got the whole Virginia's for Lovers thing. And one of their highlights is plantations, and it's the capital of the Confederacy.
Yeah.
It's like, who are they selling this,
Yeah.
It's like,
I feel like that would still sell now to certain groups of people.
Yeah, they could probably, yeah, I'm sure it would. I mean, as someone that grew up during this era, like I was 9 years old during the bicentennial, and now we're at the
50 years later.
I don't know what. Now it's 50 years later, and I'm sure there's a special whatever.
Somewhere between buy and try.
Right, exactly. That sounds like a bad RuPaul joke. But yeah, it's just weird to me. I don't know. Like,
it's strange.
That's always been weird to me. It's like just that. I don't know, and I don't want to get hyper political.
Well, it's just the pride of that is very strange. And whenever not so much now, but when I've been forced to speak with, especially older people from the South, their delusion about the Civil War, where they really convinced themselves it wasn't about slavery. Or they'll be like, but they taught those people a lot of skills and it was really good for them. And I'm like, I think you really believe that somehow.
Yeah, right. It's but here we are. We're a couple of middle-aged white guys that live in the northeast.
So we're better than everyone. That's all I'm saying.
No. It just, I just saw that and it just really kind of struck me.
It's
I was
weird.
like, how is that a selling point? To say that you're the capital of the,
the capital of the Confederacy.
I don't know. I wouldn't have put that on my resume.
Number one destination of hate.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right.
Scrolling here before we get to Tuesday night.
Okay.
On the Today Show that morning, which is hosted by Barbara Walters. This is 7 in the morning. And the first story, it says, phony sex therapy clinics are the topic.
Oh, my God.
At 7 a.m. I don't even know what a phony sex therapy clinic is. I imagine it's just like a brothel. But very weird to have on at 7 a.m. with Barbara Walters on a Tuesday morning.
Yeah, but the guests are actually Masters and Johnson.
Yeah.
So that they were still kicking around. And author Harold Robbins is also on that show. That's pretty wild. All right. So on Tuesday, let's see what I marked up here on Tuesday at 7:00. Hogan's Heroes. My dad was a huge Hogan's Heroes fan, and that was also kind of when I first started to notice. My dad really liked comedy that had kind of quirky characters.
Sure.
That was his and quirky concepts. Because later on, he really loved Barney Miller, which he really liked Barney Miller. He liked Taxi. He liked. I got it later on. He really liked news radio.
So eccentric ensembles.
Yeah, exactly. He loved those kinds of shows, and he even got into Seinfeld. He loved Kramer.
Funny's funny.
But it just was weird to me. Given some of his political proclivities, especially later in life, I'm just like, this is just weird that my dad likes this diverse cast stuff, and
you'd be surprised what people will overlook if they're laughing.
He'll laugh at it, but yeah. So Hogan's Heroes at 7:30, probably watching Hollywood Squares. And, like I said, it's that whole game show thing. And this is, again, not another, not a great night for television, but Happy Days is on at 8:00. Yep. I'd probably be watching that, as I mentioned before. But there's a couple of things at 8:30 that are of note.
2 made-for-TV movies?
Yeah. Yes. There's one called The Great Niagara, which has Richard Boone. And it says, crippled after being swept over the falls, the man is endangering his son's lives by forcing them to challenge the tumultuous falls in a barrel. This 1974 TV movie was filmed on location.
So local interest for you.
So local interest for me, when I lived in Buffalo, I loved going to Niagara Falls, which was weird because like a lot of my friends who grew up there like had never been or only been once or twice. And I was like, how can you live this close to Niagara Falls and not go like every week?
Yeah.
And I would try to make my way up there at least once a month. In the 14 years I lived there, I really, really tried to do that. Because I loved, it's still one of my favorite places to go.
Never went over in a barrel?
No. I've taken a picture next to a barrel, but I've never actually been over
the
it.
plot of this movie is some lunatic became crippled after going over the falls and then decides he's going to force his kids to go over it with him again in a barrel. And one of his sons is played by Randy Quaid.
Right, exactly. And Burt Young is in there too.
Yep.
As Ace Tully.
Great name. That's my new name, Ace Tully.
But and MASH is also on. That was another family favorite. We watched a lot of MASH. And the other TV movie you were mentioning, The Strange and Deadly Occurrence, which the plot of which sounds an awful lot like the Amityville Horror.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually a few years before the Amityville Horror. And it's just about a family being terrorized by a mysterious force in their newly purchased country home.
Robert Stack, Vera Miles. I've never heard of this, but I am very intrigued to watch this. LQ Jones is in it, who is sort of a cowboy actor. He also directed A Boy and His Dog, the only thing he ever directed.
Oh, wow.
I'm curious to check this movie out. I wonder if it's available.
Yeah, that's we'll have to put that on the list of
It's on the homework list.
Hard on the homework list, exactly. And then that's probably good. Yeah, it's 90 minutes. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
that's the
That
whole
takes
night.
me right to 10,
Yeah.
so I can skip over the crap that's on at 9 o'clock.
Nothing great.
Really not much. But at 10 o'clock, and this is this is on the PBS channel. It's the Silent Comedy Film Festival.
Yes.
And so, I was, I was hugely influenced by my dad's viewing, and we would watch a lot of Laurel and Hardy and Abbott and Costello and that kind of stuff, and Charlie Chaplin and all the old black and white shorts and stuff. And so this would kind of be right up my alley, which is funny considering later on I actually studied film in college and took film history classes and stuff. But as a kid, I was already into this stuff. And this episode, as I thought it was just like a one-off thing, but it's actually a series, as we'll discover later in the week.
Yeah. It went into the 80s. They would still show. I remember seeing Harold Lloyd and all that stuff on
Yeah.
there.
Oh, yeah. Harold Lloyd's awesome. Lloyd Hamilton, known for his pancake hat and duck-like walk, is discussed by Walter Kerr, New York Times drama critic. Hamilton's style is illustrated with clips from Hooked, Move Along, and Crushed. And I find this interesting because, like I said, I studied film history and stuff. I don't remember anything about Lloyd Hamilton. I don't know that I've come across his name before.
Yeah,
so
there was some obscure stuff on these PBS stations that are hard to find, are sort of lost films now.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. Especially after there was that big fire in 1965, I think, that destroyed a lot of silent films. Including London After Midnight, which is kind of the holy grail for horror movie fans. I don't think we'll ever see it. Although I don't know if you saw the news this week. Warner Brothers announced that they're going to be releasing Ken Russell's The Devils.
I did see
uncut.
that. Yep.
Yeah, I'm so excited about it.
I always had a bootleg from Channel 4 airing in the UK. That's the only version I've seen.
Oh yeah, and from what I understand, like the UK version is actually more complete than what was shown here in the States. But supposedly this is completely restored to the original cut that Ken Russell had. So it's like big news. It's premiering at the Cannes Film Festival in just a couple of weeks, and then it'll be in theaters this October.
And then we'll all see it and be like, "This actually sucks." We've been waiting so long. We realized it was.
I don't know that I've seen a Ken Russell movie that completely sucks.
That's true.
I mean, even the bad movies like horror are they're at least some semblance of
They're worth
something
watching.
interesting about
Yes,
them.
absolutely.
Yeah, they're worth watching. Yeah. Okay, so that would be my 10 o'clock, and then Johnny's guests this week include Joan Rivers and Buddy Rich night on Tuesday night. So that might be fun.
Wednesday, there's a cool, I don't know if you picked it, but on PBS also that night, the Men Who Made the Movies documentary.
Oh, well, I'm glad you brought that up because I did pick that. I did pick that. But I just wanted to point out before we get to that, something that I did highlight was in a whole bunch of places in this TV guide, there is a show listed as Raymond Burr crime drama.
Yes.
And it doesn't tell you the name of the show until you get down to the credit list where it says Ironside.
They did this a lot.
So it was really weird. And then I will point this out later in the week, they actually listed as Ironside.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. They used to
on
do
another
this
date.
in the 70s quite a bit. They would not list the name of the show. It would be like whoever the main lead was, and then in the description.
Right.
I have no idea why. They only really did it in the 70s, and then it's very strange. No one's ever been able to give me any insight into that one.
I just found that really weird because I noticed, I'm like, Raymond Burr crime drama. What? Like,
There's only one thing that could be.
This? And yeah, it's Ironside. But then later in the week, I noticed that they actually listed it as Ironside. So that was just a little quirky thing I noticed. So at 7:30, which is not quite prime time, but like I said, my bedtime was early in those days. So I probably would have watched Last of the Wild, which a search for sharks in Australia and the South Pacific to tag them in an effort to protect their depleting numbers. Also, the sharks' role in the natural balance of the ocean. So I was big. Like I remember, like being super excited. They used to do Jacques Cousteau specials. Nature specials, and those were the kind of show that I was allowed to stay up a little late to watch because it's educational. So I definitely would have been, and I still watch nature shows. I love a good nature show. So I was definitely into that.
You know what fascinates me about that is that this is like a nice documentary about sharks, and it's about conservation and how they're important for the ocean. Because we're a year before Jaws.
Yeah, that's true. This is right before Jaws. Although the book was out.
Yes.
I think the book was out at this point, and it was a bestseller. So, but sharks have always been, captured the imagination even before Jaws. But Jaws really kind of, injected it with some steroids.
Oh, for sure.
But all right, at 8 o'clock, as you mentioned, I'm picking from on PBS. Boy, It really makes it sound like I'm this like highfalutin PBS guy, but I swear,
it's funny how PBS was more than any other channel, especially at this time, and it was literally this time, really was like education about old Hollywood and movies. Like it was sort of documentaries we'd think of like later from like Turner Classic Movies and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And this is just seems like a really cool show. It's a documentary show. It's an hour long, and it's a profile of William Wellman, a master of action films. Brings back this 8-part series on Hollywood directors. Wellman's best films, infused with warmth and social insight, are excerpted in this portrait, including Wings from 1927, the first to receive the Best Picture Oscar, Public Enemy, a gangster classic that propelled James Cagney to stardom, and Beau Geste, the Foreign Legion adventure with Gary Cooper. Also features the story of G.I. Joe from 1945, one of the best films ever made about World War II, at least according to the person writing this caption, and the Oxbow incident, which is actually a pretty good film. It's a powerful anti-lynching parable. So yeah, I remember watching a lot of documentaries about old films, even at this age. I remember there was a documentary called The Days of Thrills and Laughter, I think it was called. And that used to be on like at holiday time, like around Christmas. And I used to watch that because it would have clips from Keystone Cops and all of that old stuff. And it's like, it's weird. Like, I feel weird. Like, I'm firmly Gen X. Like, I'm like at the beginning of Gen X, and it's like I have this weird straddle where my pop culture goes all the way back to like the 1920s. Yeah. So I have like 100 years of pop culture in my head, and it just kind of blows me away sometimes because I feel like when I talk to my daughter, she's 23, and it's like I don't, and it's not like I didn't try to educate her. And it's not like she doesn't have some breadth, but it's like it's not 100 years.
No, and
worth,
weirdly, she had much easier access to a wider range of things, which might be the issue.
Exactly.
I mean, I think that we, this TV Guide is a perfect example of, there's so many nights where you're like, geez, I guess I'll watch this thing about silent films. Like a kid wouldn't normally probably pick that if it wasn't kind of their only choice, but ends up being a great thing to be exposed to.
I definitely agree with that. All right. And then there's a cool ad next to this for The California Kid with Martin Sheen and Vic Morrow.
Made for TV movie, Michelle Phillips, Nick Nolte. So this is like a drag racing movie.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. And then let's see. I kind of circled Little House on the Prairie because, again, four sisters.
Yeah,
so,
no choice.
So that sometimes got watched. I didn't always watch it, but sometimes I did because, I just felt like I needed to.
Fair enough.
I did kind of circle The Great American Dream Machine, which is also on at the same time. And it's got an interview with cellist Pablo Casals, who died last year at the age of 95. That's not what interested me.
Oh, no, I think I know what it is that interests you.
Other segments include a profile of burlesque queen Blaze Starr.
Yes. Which you did not normally see on television.
Which you didn't normally see. A comedy sketch by Renee Taylor and Joseph Bologna concerning two lovers who quarrel over past affairs. And also, interestingly, a tour of Hamburger University, the training ground for McDonald's restaurant managers. And then also, one of these things is not like the others. American attitudes towards adultery are surveyed through film clips, interviews, and music.
Sort of related. That Hamburger University would go on to inspire the 80s TNA film Hamburger the Motion Picture.
That's right. So I, that's something that I don't know. I obviously wouldn't have picked that as a kid, but
I'd watch that
as
now.
an adult. As an adult looking back, it's part time capsule of the time period too. And then later on, I'm almost hate to admit it, but at the time I was a huge Bob Hope fan, and he's got his silver anniversary, which is what, 25 years, which seems, that seems like such a long, 25 years is nothing.
1949 it would be here.
Yeah. So, I was a big Bob Hope fan. In fact, the very first comic book I ever drew in fourth grade, I did a comic book about the Gong Show.
Nice.
I wasn't even doing superheroes back then. I was already off doing indie comics right from the start. My first comic book I did was I did a 5-page comic book for an art class and it was based on the Gong Show. And one of the guest panelists was Bob Hope.
Excellent.
And I think it was Mitzi McCall and James Bond were the other two.
Of course.
So you can see where my influences lay with that. But I definitely would have watched that.
I love that one of the sketches. So Jackie Gleason is on this as well, and it says sketches in the work. Hope and Gleason as vice cops dressed as women. That's got to be terrible.
Oh my God, that's making me cringe just thinking about it. Oh gosh. Well, fortunately, we can wash that all away at 10 o'clock with Get Christy Love.
Very fun show.
This is not a show that I really had on my radar at all, but I've heard it get name checked a few times, and it's definitely something that I would want to check out now as an adult.
Sort of a blaxploitation crime drama, but on TV.
Yeah, the same kind of era that the kung fu stuff was happening was also prime blaxploitation cinema as well. That kind of early 70s, early to mid 70s era, and so you're seeing some of that reflected on television. And then at 10:30, there is a show called Video Visionaries. Doesn't necessarily give us too much information, but it seems like it would be cool. Video images that fluctuate to the varying moods and intensities of music are demonstrated in this sampler of experimental pieces. The works are by members of Boston's Music Image Workshop, a project set up to explore the possibilities of synthesizing sound and visual imagery. So it seems like this is 1974. This is kind of cutting edge stuff. Yeah. For the time, it's pre MTV. Obviously, but it has a feel for some of the things that I would study later in college. The film program at the University of Buffalo was very much into the avant-garde. A lot of my professors were in the avant-garde scene. My film professor was Paul Sherritt's. If you look him up, he did some very famous what they called flicker films. He was tangentially involved with Andy Warhol. Tony Conrad, was another professor I had, and he's kind of well known on the minimalist ambient music circuit. He passed away, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. Maybe a little longer ago, but he was an interesting character to take classes. So, but anyway, the bent was very experimental, and it wasn't focused on doing narrative films at all, and so it was. This definitely seems like something that I would be into, something I would have maybe watched for class. And maybe we did at one point. I don't know. But it's just interesting to me that this is on television.
Yeah, experimental video, music, and not music videos. This is probably like, flashing and weird,
it's
distortion.
probably like what we would consider screensavers or
vaporware
something like
that people would go down.
Yeah. Right.
There's also on PBS that night at 9:30. PBS, again, you were not wrong at the beginning. They're kind of killing it this week. There's a debut of a show called Caught in the Act. And it says, the spectrum of contemporary music is the domain of this performance series. At Stage Center this week, Martin Mull, who combines comedy with rock music and whose witty songs have been heard on The Great American Dream Machine. Mull's selections include Margie the Midget. Oh
my gosh, how did I miss that when I was going through this?
Martin Mull sounds, I'd watch Martin Mull 1974.
I would totally, because I remember watching Fernwood Tonight and, some of those other shows later in the decade, of course. But
TV staple, and always good in everything he pops up in.
Yeah. I always, for whatever reason, I always liked him.
He's great.
He was a lot of fun. So Video Visionaries, and then really the only other thing of note, and is also part of our recurring theme, at 11:30 after the news, there is Stuart Granger stars as Sherlock Holmes in Hound of the Baskervilles. So it's a TV movie, 1972 TV movie version of Arthur Conan Doyle's classic mystery about a family curse and a vicious hound that prowls the moors near Baskerville Hall.
I've never seen that version. There's so many versions of that.
Oh, yeah. But William Shatner is in
Of course he is. Of course he is. Do you think he's attempting to do an English accent?
Probably, knowing him, he's probably thinking he's doing the best English accent ever.
Yeah, we'd never be able to know if he was attempting it or not.
Right, exactly. So, and Johnny Carson has Orson Bean and Jack Palance
That's not a bad lineup.
as guests.
Boston's own Orson
That's not
Bean.
too bad. There you
Thursday night, what are you doing?
go. Thursday night, we are. Let's get. I've circled once again Hogan's Heroes and Wait Till Your Father Gets Home at 8:00. I've only circled it because it was not a show I picked, but again, Four Sisters, the Waltons.
Those little girls
on. It was
love
kinda-
John Boy.
Oh gosh, yeah. And that was all. That was we always joked because there were so many of us. That was the Waltons family. There was, I don't know how many people were in that house, 8 or 9. But I mean, that was we had, including my parents, there were 9 people in our house. So it was, at the end of the night, we would always joke, good night, John Boy. We from the top of the stairs as we were going to bed. That was kind of our family joke for a while. Streets of San Francisco was also on at this point. I remember watching that surreptitiously, and this is where Thursday night is where Ironside is actually called Ironside and not Raymond Burr.
Yeah.
Cop show, whatever it was.
Frank Gorshin and Cameron Mitchell in this episode.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty cool guest star lineup. And right above that, I'm just interested. I don't even remember this, but it says WFL football. Chicago Fire versus the Florida Blazers. So this is like pre-USFL.
Yeah, pre-USFL.
So this is another
rival to the NFL.
Well, I think, I'm wondering if they're, I don't know much about this league at all. It's, all-pro wide receiver Gary Collins. Ooh.
Who went on to host stuff on TV later.
Yeah, he did. That's why I noticed that. But I might have to do a little more research on the WFL. Because I really don't remember that.
The old
at all.
waffle.
Yeah. Well, that was before the World League of American Football, which came later.
Which Trump drove into the ground.
Which is the second waffle. Yeah. The second waffle. Well, no, Trump destroyed the USFL.
Oh, yes, that's the one. It's hard to keep them straight.
There's a great book called Football for a Buck, which I highly recommend. I read it last year, and it's all about the rise and fall of the USFL, and it just really gets into the nitty gritty of I think everybody should read it just to see how much of a fucking dirtbag Trump
and
is,
not good at
and
it.
how long, and how long he's been an asshole.
Same playbook.
These people are, you hate him because he's rude. And I'm like, no, we've hated him for a long time because he's been an asshole for a long time. Especially those of us who live in New York and have been exposed to him all of our lives.
Doing the same
unfortunately.
thing. It's the same con. Yeah. When you read that book, it's like, oh, this is no different.
This guy should not be, in charge of the Chuck E. Cheese. Especially the ball pit. But
maybe
anyway,
only the ball pit.
I'm ranting. I had to be good for at least one rant.
It's fine.
On the show here. So then again, silent comedy film festival at 10:00. I'll be watching this show again. Child stars of the 20s and 30s are the focus as author Leonard Maltin examines the careers of Mickey Rooney, Billy Bevan, Farina, Mary Kornman, and Mickey Daniels. I've only heard of one of those people.
Farina is just one name. I got to meet Leonard Maltin once.
Did you? Oh, didn't you have him on?
I've never had him on. I was at Dana Gould had a premiere for Stand Against Evil at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery that I went to.
Oh my God.
And Leonard Maltin was,
I'm so
was
jealous.
interviewing Dana, and I got to meet him at that thing. It was very cool.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I love Stand Against Evil. That is one of my favorite shows.
That premiere. So that night, that was 2016. I flew into LA. This shows the difference between my life now and then. I rented a red convertible Mustang.
Wow.
I drove to the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. They were having a book release party for Cassandra Peterson's book before her biography. Then went to Hollywood Forever Cemetery, went to the Stand Against Evil premiere. And that thing, you had your own blanket. They gave you a... whatever the town name was from Stand Against Evil, I forget, somethingville. But it was like a nice fleece blanket with like the town insignia on it that you got to keep. And there were people coming around with wagons with pizza and donuts. And then we had to watch the thing. And then I went over to Meltdown Comics and went to the last ever Meltdown show. And then I slept and flew home. I think I was there for maybe 36 hours.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's
completely
crazy.
bonkers.
But yeah, I've never been to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. My wife and I have talked. My wife is from Los Angeles, from Calabasas, and so I've only just been to LA a few times now since I've been dating. We started dating 10 years ago, but we've been married. It'll be 5 years this year. But so I haven't been there yet, but I'm hoping to get there.
Fun. I saw the birds there.
It's on our list of places to go. We did go to the other. I'm trying to remember the name of the other famous cemetery that we went to, and my friend was getting married, and we went out for the wedding, and there's a chapel there on the grounds of the cemetery and where they got married, and it was right near the grave of Jimmy Stewart and his wife. Oh wow! So I got to see Jimmy Stewart's grave, which was really cool for me. Jimmy Stewart's one of my favorites. From that era. Anyway, so I definitely would have been watching that. And then there's another episode of Video Visionaries on right after that.
Which is hilarious that it's on more than one night.
Yeah, that was my thought too. I was like, that's really
right.
That's really wild.
And then we get to Friday, final night of the week, and the reason you picked this issue.
Well, and I was quite surprised to find that there's a new show that's premiering on this night that is, very, very foundationally, formative for me. But I was surprised to discover that also on this night premiering, new show, Planet of the Apes. There's a Planet of the Apes show. Yep. So, and that's not the show I was just talking about, but we're going to get
with Roddy McDowell on it. Yeah, Roddy
McDowell and Ron Harper, and stepping into the Charlton Heston role, I think, or similar. But yeah, I was big into the Planet of the Apes. Obviously, like I said, my older brother was a big sci-fi guy, so I remember seeing Planet of the Apes when I was pretty young, probably right around this time. I definitely saw it before this show premiered, but I remember really not liking the show all that much.
I feel like most people didn't.
Yeah, it just didn't have the same flavor of the movie. It didn't have it didn't have the right tone to it.
But then the Filmation cartoon was kind of okay, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it used some of this. The cartoon used some of the same techniques as Johnny Quest with the solid blacks, and it was really much more artistically striking. That's another one of those shows that could have lasted longer. The cartoon. But yeah, so at 8:00, Planet of the Apes was on. I definitely watched that. I remember watching that. And then that's an hour show, but I probably would have switched over to $6 Million Man at 8:30 because I like that show more at the time. And also Chico and the Man is on as well. That's another show that got watched at 9:00. This was a Friday night staple for me in this part of the 70s. The Rockford Files. Love the Rockford Files. I especially love the theme music, and I love the little answering machine message at the beginning of every episode was always different, which I always thought was cool that it was different every episode.
Predating the Simpsons gag by decades.
Yeah, exactly. I'm willing to bet that that's where they got that idea from.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I would have definitely watched that. And guest stars on this week's episode of the Rockford Files include
Tom Atkins and James Cromwell.
And James Cromwell. Yeah. And Dick Gautier.
That's a good crowd.
Yeah. And then they've got a close up here that's Bonnie and Clyde. It's I don't know if it's the network premiere.
It is. This would probably be one of the R-rated movies they were talking about, because in the close-up, it goes out of its way to point out, quote, the more explicit scenes have been trimmed by about 3 minutes.
Yeah. Yep. It does say that. That's just pretty wild. I didn't see that movie until I was in high school, and I saw it in a film class in high school. And I remember really liking it at the time. I don't know if it's a movie I would revisit.
It's very late 60s.
Yeah. But it's really at the forefront of that new Hollywood. Sure. So it's an important film in that sense. It kind of amped up the violence. Tried to make things a little more realistic in its depiction.
I forgot that Gene Wilder is in it.
Yeah. And Gene Hackman too. It's actually a pretty decent movie. I'm making it sound like I didn't. I really liked it. But now that I've seen lots more movies, it's
not as impressive.
It's not as impressive, but I will note that after the Rockford Files at 9:00, we get to 10:00, which is where the show that really helped form me finally premieres at 10:00 on Friday. So this is like the last show in prime time on Friday night. So it's the last show in the TV guide. It's funny how that worked out. But before we get to it, just above it, there's a movie called Orphans of the Storm, which is D.W. Griffith silent classic about two people caught up in the French Revolution. I saw that in college, and it's actually pretty good. I mean, a lot of people, obviously, D.W. Griffith's legacy now is pretty much tarnished by his racism.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Birth of a Nation.
That'll do it.
It's weird. Like he was an innovator in film storytelling, but the problem is the stories that he told.
Well, yeah, I mean, Leni Riefenstahl was also an innovator.
Right, exactly. And the thing is, like, I've always heard that. I've seen clips from Triumph of the Will, like in my film history class and stuff, but I've never taken the time to actually sit and watch the whole thing. Because it's like, I'm not gonna do that.
She did invent montage.
Yeah. But Orphans of the Storm was a pretty good movie.
Lillian Gish.
Lillian Gish is in that. Anyway, but the highlight at 10:00 here is the premiere. Well, actually, it's not the premiere. We're 3 weeks in with this issue, but it premiered this season. The Night Stalker with Darren McGavin. This was a truly formative show. Like I said, it's at 10:00. And mind you, my bedtime at this time of my life is 8:00.
But it's Friday night.
Or 8:30. But, this was a show. Somehow I managed to convince my mom to let me stay up to watch, because I had seen the TV movies, which, the Night Stalker and the Night Strangler, which came out, this is 74. I think the Night Stalker was 71, 72. I was I probably didn't see it first run. I probably saw it on reruns, but it was repeated fairly frequently, because up until Roots premiered later in the 70s, The Night Stalker was actually the highest rated TV movie of all time. Yeah. It was a huge hit, and that's why it got the series. There was actually going to be a third movie in the series in in that, but they decided to make it a series instead.
How do you feel about that? Do you think that would have been better as a third movie instead of the series? I kind of do.
Well, yes and no. I say no in part because I've read the synopsis of what that third movie was going to be, and it's a pretty lousy plot. It has to do with like UFOs, and it didn't seem to capture the same kind of spirit of the other two movies.
I mean, I don't think they ever recaptured the spirit of the first one. So the second one is essentially a remake of the first movie in a lot of ways.
More or less. And it's got the second one's also got dueling Oscar Goldmans, right? Darren McGavin and Richard Anderson are both in it. And Darren McGavin was Oscar Goldman in the original $6 Million Man pilot. But Night Stalker it definitely captured my imagination. I was, like I said, I was exposed to kind of horror movies, and so on. And this I'm going to actually bring back the story that I teased earlier. So in grade school, at Caroline Elementary, at recess, I would get other kids together and we would play Night Stalker.
Nice.
on the playground. So some of the kids would play monsters, and
very nice in the 70s. Would have been a much darker game in the 80s.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I was that weird kid.
Well, the interesting thing for people don't know, this was a huge influence on the X-Files and a bunch of other things, but it was the first time someone had combined essentially a police procedural, even though he's a reporter, with a sort of monster of the week, Outer Limits, Twilight Zone kind of show. So you were getting these two genres sort of crossed together for the first time.
Right. And the other element of it that I didn't really pick up on as a kid, but as I rewatched it as an adult, was the humor.
Yeah.
It is a funny show. It's a really funny show.
McGavin's funny in everything.
Yeah, he's really, really cool. And the other neat little tidbit about this show is that the story editor was David Chase, who went on to do The Sopranos later. It was one of his first assignments when he was starting out, work as a working writer. They didn't have showrunners back then, but he was the story editor, so he kind of had a little bit of influence on every script that kind of came through. And including one of the episodes was written by Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis, who went on to do Back to the Future and a whole bunch of used cars and a whole bunch of other stuff. This show was, like I said, somehow I managed to get my mom to let me stay up. We had a fold-out couch, so I got set up with the fold-out couch.
Which is such a nice thing. I used to do that on weekends. I'd pull out the fold-out couch and watch movies there, and it was in the watch TV in the living room, and it was like the lap of luxury.
Right? Yeah, exactly. We'd pop up a bowl of popcorn, and I remember like getting upset because like my younger sisters wanted to stay up and watch it too, and I'm like, oh, you're not going to make it. This show's too scary for you. Me being the 7-year-old,
the mature
7-year-old. Yes. And they almost never made it, past the first commercial break.
Well, that was the big scare scene. Usually the first commercial break was kind of the,
but that was the thing too. Like I would sometimes, I wouldn't always make it to the end of the show. I'd fall asleep. And of course I'd miss, half the show, or I'd miss the last 10 minutes of the show, and you couldn't see it again until it was in reruns, and this show got canceled before the first season was even over. They only, it was supposed to go, I think, 26 episodes. They only ran 20. Darren McGavin asked to be let out of his contract. it was partly because he was getting really, there was a lot of creative differences about the direction of the show.
It got very repetitive. I love it, but eventually it's like, come on.
Right, exactly. It's like, well, how many different monsters can you come up with from, and they tried. They came up with a bunch of different things.
They went deep into some lore.
Yeah, they did. I think one of my favorite episodes was the Parmalfay episode.
Yes.
Which was really, that was a really interesting episode. That's probably one of my favorites. That had a lot of humor, but also was scary. Phil Silvers was in that episode, if I remember.
Yep.
And
yep.
Just a great mix of horror, humor, great characters, great writing. It was
great actors.
Great actor Simon Oakland as Vincenzo. It just really grabbed me from the go. The very first episode of the series was called Ripper, and it was about Jack the Ripper had been reincarnated was still alive.
Right. Wasn't evident. It wasn't clear.
It wasn't clear, but there's a scene in that episode that's still scary. Like when I rewatched the series in full a couple of years ago. So I got the Kino Lorber had just re-released the box set of the series, and I rewatched it. And there's a scene in that first episode where he's hiding in the closet, and the tension is just unbelievable in that scene, and it still works. Here we are, like 52 years later.
52 years later,
it still works. So like there's a lot of great episodes like early on, like that one. There was a episode, like I think episode 3 was the werewolf episode, which has now I can't think of his name. Eric, the guy from the soap opera. I can't think of his name, but he played the werewolf. Anyway, so there's that. But this week's episode, I think, is the 4th episode because we're at September 27th, and it premiered.
This is a really weird monster.
Yeah, but this was one that like really sold. I was already sold on the show, but this one scared me because the monster is completely unseen, and it's the infamous invisible alien. That needs bone marrow.
Yes.
And so they just leave this like pile of molten bone
goo.
and goo behind after they're stealing electronics and bone marrow, and they're basically to fix up their spacecraft, I guess. We actually see at the end of the episode, there's kind of a cheesy shot of a cheesy UFO, off in the distance. And of course, I don't.
So this probably would have been the 3rd movie. This sounds like the remnants of what would have been the 3rd movie.
It does seem a little bit like that too. You are correct. But it's, this one really captured the imagination for me as a 7-year-old. We had, living in Ithaca, we had in our backyard, we had a 2 acres of land on our property, and we were bordered by a cow pasture on 2 of the sides.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes the cows would get into, break the fence and get into our yard. We'd have to call the farmer. But part of the back end, we couldn't keep the lawn completely mowed all the time. So the back end of the yard would sometimes just be tall grass. And so this episode in particular, really kind of played that. So when the wind blew and the grass was kind of waving, it felt like that episode. We were always kind of half joking with each other that the aliens from Kolchak were coming to get us, and get our bone marrow. I was particularly teased quite a bit by my older siblings. So, that's what
older siblings are for.
Yes, exactly. So that's kind of where it's at. And Kolchak, like you said, it was hugely influential, not just on me, because it helped solidify my love for monsters and monster movies, and kind of mixing humor with with the horror. You know,
And it wasn't too far removed from the Rockford Files in a lot of ways, in that the lead was kind of a bumbling, not great. He wasn't good at fighting.
Right.
He'd get his ass kicked a lot. He was kind of a loser.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a new take on these things.
Right.
By the 70s.
Yeah, it definitely. It wasn't. It was kind of an atypical, lead. It very much went against, the standard tropes that had been, played out in Hollywood for years. Where you have a character who's not this, usually your leading man is this, kind of, a rock solid, square jawed, clean cut
Peter Graves.
Yeah, you'd have Peter Graves or whatever. But instead you've got Darren McGavin, who's kind of this. Not that he's not, he's not unattractive. He's not ugly, is what I'm trying to say.
He's older. He's got a weird energy.
He's older, and he definitely did not fit. Leading man. He was more known as a character actor. I think up until that age, he did supporting roles mostly. He wasn't really the lead in a lot of things. He was more of a supporting character. So, given the lead in a series was something kind of unique in that way too.
The only way to see these, to your point, because the whole series ended early. They also moved the location from Las Vegas to Chicago, which I think was McGavin's request for some reason.
Yeah.
But Vegas had in the TV movie, Vegas had there was just a weird, sleazy or different vibe.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't really see TV shows set in Las Vegas ever up until that point.
Right.
It was like New York or LA or some sort of Chicago. So that lost a little bit of the magic. But essentially what they did was they edited two episodes together into, and I'm making air quotes, movies, and then sold those into syndication. So you'd see The Night Stalker Part 6, and it was 2 episodes edited together. They'd be on late night, USA Network, or in syndication. That would be kind of the only place you could catch it.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's true. That was true for a long time, and because it was only 20 episodes, it wasn't really ripe.
Not lucrative to rerun.
Yeah, it wasn't really ripe for syndication because if you have it on every night, that's only 4 weeks of programming. So it was hard to find too for the longest time because it really wasn't being shown. Every now and then it would pop up late at night. So it was one of those things that just kind of had this built a cult following to it because it was hard to see. It was hard to find because it was in that pre-videotape era. Most people did not have home recorders. So there was no tape trading and stuff, and it was just hard to come by. And like you said, they occasionally would show up in edited form as movies, and they were usually shown late at night, after the news.
Filler.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was filler before the station signed off. So, yeah,
but it's fun. It holds up.
Yeah.
It's a fun rewatch. I've rewatched it, a couple times over the years, and it's definitely a fun show. Well, that is the week. We did it again for the first time, as this was the
right together again.
The first episode. Oh my God, lemon menthol twist cigarettes.
I was gonna bring that up. Yeah, because that has got to be the craziest cigarette. Because you always talk about the cigarette ads, but that has got to be the craziest cigarette ad I've ever seen. Lemon menthol cigarettes.
Yeah, that's
all.
Oh, and then.
All of
2 pages after that, the Swiss Miss ad is terrifying. Right?
It almost looks like I wonder if that's Will Vinton created.
Will Vinton? This would be early for. Yeah, it looks like a claymation Swiss Miss, and she looks completely demented.
Oh, absolutely.
That could have been one of the monsters on the Night Stalker.
She looks like Victoria Jackson from Saturday Night Live.
Very true.
With long pigtails.
Very true.
Yeah, that is a crazy,
yeah.
crazy.
And then there's a fun thing of of Barbara Walters getting cut in half by everybody's favorite magician. Thank you, Doug Henning.
Oh gosh, yeah. Or young soda jerks turn into old soda jerks.
Yeah, I was like, what is that an ad even for? But it's for the Marines.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, we don't have the draft anymore, thanks to Nixon at Vietnam. But
Right. If you work at an ice cream shop, you should join the Marines instead. What?
I mean, yeah, and I'm just thinking about this in context. 1974, Nixon would have just left office in August of '74. He left office. So
Yeah, Vietnam's still going on.
This was just right at the end of Vietnam too. Yeah, that's wild.
I don't know why you'd want to join the Marines while the draft is still going.
Yeah. Well, because you don't want to become an old soda jerk. That's what
true.
it is.
You know what? I'll pick old soda jerk anytime.
Me too. Gee whiz.
Over anything. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I'm glad that we got to do it.
Yeah.
We'll have to do it again
Yeah.
for the third time.
I'm realizing how I rambled a lot. I apologize.
This show is all about rambling. It would be nothing if not for rambling.
That's true. That's true. I'm really happy to have been here. Thank you for having me on, and hopefully I want to have you back on my show. I want to talk about I
anytime.
want to talk about punk rock. It's the 50th anniversary
Absolutely.
of the Ramones this year. So
yes.
So I thought that might be a cool episode. I'll reach out and we'll try to
More to come.
We'll try to set that up.
More to come.
Yes, more to come. If you want to check out any of my cartooning or my new book, you can see it at Dougside.square.site. That's my web store. You can pick up some of my books. There's original artwork on there as well. I'm on Facebook and the usual suspects, except for Twitter X. I quit that years ago.
The smart ones of us got off that.
Yeah, yeah. I am on Blue Sky, but Blue Sky just seems kind of like a limp. I don't know. I mean, I don't.
It'll never be the
I
same.
don't hate it, but and also I also do music. You can look up, listen to some of my experimental music under the band name the Flaming Schwarzkopf Experience. I've got about 40 albums of material out there on all the streaming services, so check it out. You have no excuse. My most recent one that I'm most proud of is called American Ragnarok, which I put out right before the 2024 election, and I think it's got some of my best songs on there. And then I have my own podcast, Assault of the Two-Headed Space Mules, which, obviously the influence of the 1950s horror monster movies is very evident there as well. So
Very
anyway.
adjacent. If you like this show, you should check that out as well. Has anyone ever put out an album called Ragnarok and Roll?
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
They had to have.
I'm pretty sure, but because I did some research because I wanted to call it American Ragnarok, that album, and I was like, I better check to see if somebody else has used that title before. Not that I wouldn't still not use it, but I
Sure.
didn't want to, I didn't want it to mimic something that was already out there. That was, it seems like the kind of bad pun title that Motley Crue would have used. Back
They're not smart enough to have referenced Ragnarok.
Well, Megadeth then.
Yeah, there you go. That makes sense.
That's more of a Megadeth thing. Because Motley Crue, who did Armageddon it?
Oh, it was Def Leppard.
Well, there we go. Yeah.
They had traditional English education.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. So anyway.
Yeah, I'll put links to that stuff in the show description too, where people
excellent.
can find it.
That'd be awesome.
There you go, Douglas Arthur, The Bridge That Eats Trucks. Check out all of his cartoons, his podcasts, all the stuff he does, music, everything we plug there at the end. If you have guests you'd like me to try to get on the show, you can email me, tvguidance@gmail.com, ken@icanread.com. That's about it. It's June. It's hot. Hope you're staying cool, and if you're in a climate that is warm, which is almost all of them now. Otherwise, I'll be here next week for a brand new edition, so I hope you will too for that brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor.
I do want to correct you on one thing. I have never been on your show. You've been on my show,